Welcome to my channel. The entire auction yard burst into laughter. A rusty, dust-covered classic coupe rolled onto the stage. Its engine was seized. The windows were cracked. The tires had sunk into the ground after years of neglect. One auction worker whispered, "That car hasn't moved in 15 years." Another laughed. "It isn't a car anymore. It's scrap metal." Standing near the front was Billionaire CEO Victoria Stone, owner of one of the country's largest luxury auto companies. She glanced at the old vehicle and smiled. "Skip it. Nobody is foolish enough to buy that." At the back of the crowd stood Daniel Brooks, a struggling single dad and small-town mechanic. His 10-year-old daughter, Emma, held his hand tightly. "Dad. Why are we here?" Daniel quietly replied, "Because sometimes everyone else misses what really matters." The bidding began. $500. Silence. $800. Still no bids. The auctioneer sighed. "Anyone?" Daniel slowly raised his hand. $1,000. The crowd turned toward him. Someone laughed. "He's actually buying it." Victoria looked at Daniel's worn work clothes and old pickup truck. Then she walked over. "You're wasting your money. That car is dead." Daniel smiled politely. "Maybe. But I won't know until I look." Victoria laughed loudly enough for everyone to hear. "In 30 days. You'll realize I was right." Daniel simply nodded. "We'll see." After the auction ended, Daniel towed the forgotten car back to his tiny garage. Late that night, while cleaning decades of dirt from the engine bay, his flashlight reflected off something unusual. A small metal plate. Hidden beneath layers of rust. It wasn't part of the original car. Someone had deliberately concealed it years ago. Daniel carefully brushed away the dirt. The plate had a strange serial number engraved into it. Emma leaned closer. "Dad. I don't think that's supposed to be there." Daniel stared at the mysterious plate. He had repaired cars for over 20 years. But he had never seen anything like it before. Daniel removed the small metal plate with extreme care. Behind it was a hidden compartment no larger than a notebook. Emma's eyes widened. "Dad, there's something inside." Daniel reached in and pulled out a weathered leather envelope sealed in wax. The seal carried the emblem of a luxury automobile company that had disappeared nearly 30 years earlier. Inside were several yellow documents, a faded photograph, and a brass key with the number 17 engraved on it. Emma picked up the photograph. It showed the very same car when it was brand new. Standing beside it was an elderly engineer wearing a badge that read, "Chief Prototype Designer." Daniel frowned. This wasn't an ordinary production car. The final document caught his attention. Across the top were the words, "Prototype Vehicle Number 1, Confidential." His heart began to race. This car wasn't built for sale. It was an experimental prototype. The next morning Daniel visited the local vehicle archives. An elderly historian examined the documents. After several minutes, he looked at Daniel in disbelief. "Do you have any idea what you found?" Daniel shook his head. The historian smiled. 30 years ago, this prototype disappeared before it could be unveiled. Collectors have searched for it ever since. They believed it had been destroyed. Emma whispered, "So, it's actually valuable?" The historian nodded slowly. "If it's authentic, it could be worth millions." Meanwhile, Victoria Stone received an unexpected phone call. One of her senior engineers sounded nervous. "Ma'am. We've identified the serial number from the auction vehicle." Victoria frowned. "So?" The engineer hesitated. "That wasn't just an old car. It was the company's first secret prototype." Victoria stood up immediately. "What?" The engineer continued, "And if Daniel Brooks really bought it, He may now own one of the rarest automobiles ever built. Victoria's confident smile disappeared. Find him. Before someone else does. That evening, as Daniel returned to his garage, he noticed a black luxury SUV parked outside. A man in an expensive suit stepped out. He handed Daniel a business card. "Mr. Brooks. My client would like to purchase your car." Daniel asked, "Who's your client?" The man smiled. "Someone willing to pay $1 million. Emma looked at her father in shock. But Daniel glanced at the mysterious brass key marked 17 and quietly replied, "I'm sorry. The car isn't for sale." The suited man's smile faded. "You may regret that decision." Daniel watched the SUV drive away. He had a feeling the hidden key unlocked something far more valuable than money.
Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Enjoy the video.
Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the brass key. The number 17 had to mean something. That evening, he examined every inch of the prototype again. Emma was cleaning the trunk when she noticed something unusual. "Dad! The floor doesn't sound solid." Daniel tapped the metal. A hollow echo answered. He carefully removed the carpet and unscrewed the trunk panel. Hidden beneath it was a small steel lock. Emma held up the brass key. 17. Daniel inserted the key. Click. The compartment slowly opened. Inside was a waterproof metal case. Daniel lifted it out carefully. Inside were original blueprints, engineering notebooks, and one sealed letter. The letter was addressed to, "Whoever finds this car." Daniel unfolded it. It read, "If you're reading this, you found the only surviving prototype. This vehicle contains technology decades ahead of its time. Protect it from those who only see money." Emma looked amazed. "So someone wanted this car to stay hidden?" Daniel nodded. "And now everyone is looking for it." The next morning, news spread quickly. Collectors, museums, and wealthy investors began calling Daniel. Offers climbed from $1 million to $3 million. Then $5 million. Daniel politely refused every offer. "I won't sell until I know the whole story." Victoria Stone became increasingly frustrated. She drove to Daniel's garage herself. Standing beside the dusty prototype, she smiled. "I underestimated you." Daniel replied calmly, "You underestimated the car." Victoria handed him a contract. $10 million. Signed today. Daniel looked at the papers but didn't touch them. "I'm not interested." Victoria frowned. "Everyone has a price." Daniel smiled. "No. Some things are worth more than money." Just as Victoria turned to leave, an elderly man stepped out of a taxi. He stared at the prototype with tears in his eyes. "I never thought I'd see it again." Daniel walked toward him. "Do you know this car?" The old man nodded. "I designed it. My name is Arthur Bennett. I was the chief engineer who built prototype number 1. The entire garage fell silent. Arthur slowly placed his hand on the hood. "But there's something inside this car. Something no one except me knows about." Daniel and Emma exchanged nervous glances. Arthur looked at them seriously. "If I'm right, this prototype isn't worth $10 million. It's worth far more." Arthur Bennett gently opened the driver's door and sat behind the wheel. His hands trembled as he touched the steering wheel. "I helped build this car 30 years ago. I never thought I'd see it again." Daniel quietly asked, "What makes it so special?" Arthur smiled. "It isn't just a prototype. It was designed to change the entire automotive industry." He pointed toward the center console. "There's one last compartment. I built it myself." Daniel removed a small wooden trim panel beneath the dashboard. Hidden behind it was a tiny keyhole. Arthur reached into his pocket. He pulled out an old silver key. "I've carried this for 3 decades. He inserted the key. With a soft click, a concealed drawer slowly slid open. Inside rested a small titanium case. Emma gasped. "Dad! It's another secret compartment." Arthur carefully opened the case. Inside were the original patent certificates, engineering drawings, and a handwritten notebook filled with test results. Daniel looked through the pages. This technology. It was years ahead of its time. Arthur nodded. "We created an engine that delivered incredible efficiency. But the company believed it would make their existing business obsolete. So they canceled the project. They ordered every prototype destroyed." Emma looked at the car. "But this one survived." Arthur smiled. "Because I couldn't let history disappear." Just then, Victoria Stone received an urgent phone call. Her legal advisor sounded shocked. "Victoria, you need to come back immediately. The patent office has confirmed Arthur Bennett's documents are authentic." Victoria froze. "What does that mean?" The lawyer replied, "It means Daniel doesn't just own an old prototype. He owns the rights to technology worth hundreds of millions of dollars." Victoria looked back at Daniel. For the first time, she realized she hadn't laughed at a struggling mechanic. She had laughed at the future. Within hours, news spread around the world. Television crews surrounded Daniel's small garage. Collectors, manufacturers, investors. Everyone wanted the prototype. Offers climbed to $20 million. Then $50 million. Daniel refused every one. "I'm not selling." Arthur smiled proudly. "I knew I chose the right person to find it." Then Arthur became serious. "Daniel, there's one final place we need to visit." He unfolded an old map from the notebook. A red circle marked an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. Arthur whispered, "That's where the second prototype was hidden." Daniel looked at the map in disbelief. If it still exists, it could change everything. Arthur folded the old map and carefully placed it back inside the notebook. Daniel looked at him. "Do you really think the second prototype is still there?" Arthur nodded. "I hid it myself. But I never went back. The factory was sealed after the project was cancelled." Emma smiled. "Then let's go." The next morning, Daniel, Emma, Arthur, and Victoria arrived at the abandoned factory. The giant steel gates were covered in rust. Broken windows overlooked an empty parking lot. Nature had slowly reclaimed the property. Arthur stopped in front of the main entrance. "I spent 20 years of my life here." He took a deep breath. "I never thought I'd return." Daniel pushed open the heavy doors. The building echoed with silence. Old machines sat exactly where workers had left them decades earlier. Dust covered everything. Following Arthur's map, they walked to the basement. At the end of a narrow hallway stood a massive steel vault. Emma pointed to the faded number painted above it. 17. Daniel smiled. "The same number as the brass key." Arthur inserted the old key. The lock clicked. Slowly, the vault door opened. Inside sat another vehicle beneath a gray protective cover. Arthur carefully pulled the cover away. Everyone froze. Unlike the first prototype, this car looked almost brand new. Its silver paint still shined. Emma whispered, "It's beautiful." Arthur smiled proudly. This was prototype number 2. The complete version. Daniel opened the driver's door. The interior looked untouched. On the passenger seat rested another leather folder. Across the front were the words, "Final Invention." Daniel opened it carefully. Inside were signed patent transfers. The documents legally transferred every remaining patent to Arthur Bennett and allowed him to choose the future owner. Arthur looked at Daniel. "I've already made my decision." Daniel looked confused. "What do you mean?" Arthur smiled. "I want you to have everything." Daniel stepped back. "I can't accept that." Arthur placed a hand on his shoulder. "I spent 30 years waiting for someone who cared more about preserving this invention than becoming rich. You proved that person is you." Just then, dozens of news helicopters appeared overhead. The discovery had already reached the media. Reporters rushed toward the factory. Within hours, experts confirmed both prototypes were authentic. The combined value exceeded $250 million. Victoria turned to Daniel. 30 days ago, I called this car dead." Daniel smiled. "It wasn't dead. It was simply waiting for someone to believe in it." The crowd applauded. But before anyone could celebrate further, Arthur pointed toward a dusty wooden crate hidden behind prototype number 2. "It contains one last secret. And it's even more important than the cars." Everyone turned toward the crate as Daniel slowly reached for the lid. Daniel slowly lifted the lid of the dusty wooden crate. Everyone leaned forward. Inside wasn't gold. It wasn't stacks of cash. It was something far more valuable. Dozens of leather-bound notebooks. Original engineering journals. Hand-drawn blueprints. Research records. And a letter addressed simply, "To the future." Arthur Bennett carefully unfolded the letter. His voice trembled as he read it. "If these documents are ever found, let them belong to someone who values innovation over profit. The future should never be hidden because it threatens today's business." Arthur closed the letter with tears in his eyes. "I wrote this on the day they shut our project down." Within weeks, automotive historians confirmed that the journals documented more than 30 groundbreaking engineering ideas. Several universities described them as one of the most significant private engineering collections ever discovered. Instead of selling the patents to the highest bidder, Daniel made a different decision. He met with Arthur and Victoria. "I don't want these inventions locked away again." Arthur smiled. "What do you have in mind?" Daniel replied, "Let's create a foundation. A place where young engineers can study these ideas for free." Victoria immediately agreed. "Harrison Automotive will fund it." Arthur smiled proudly. "Then my life's work will finally help the next generation." 6 months later, the Bennett Innovation Center officially opened. Students from around the world came to learn. Every visitor saw the 2 restored prototype cars displayed side by side. A plaque beneath them read, "Dreams only become history when someone refuses to give up on them." Emma proudly gave guided tours. One young student asked, "Were these really called dead cars?" Emma smiled. "Yes. But my dad taught me something. Machines aren't worthless just because people stop believing in them." Victoria walked over to Daniel. "I owe you an apology." Daniel smiled. "For what?" "For laughing at you 30 days ago." Daniel shook her hand. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we learn from them." Victoria nodded. "I'll never judge a person, or a car, by appearances again." 1 year later, Daniel's small garage was still open. He still repaired old cars. He still charged fair prices. The only difference was that people now traveled from across the country, not because he had become wealthy, but because they trusted him. Arthur officially retired and handed Daniel his old toolbox. "This belongs to you now." Daniel accepted it with gratitude. "I'll take good care of it." As the sun set, Emma looked at the first prototype parked outside the garage. "Dad, remember when everyone laughed because you bought this dead car?" Daniel smiled. "I do." Emma grinned. "They were wrong. Daniel looked at the restored prototype and replied, the car was never dead. It was simply waiting for someone willing to believe in it. The camera slowly pulled away from the small garage where it had all begun. One forgotten car. One honest mechanic. And one decision to never give up had changed countless lives forever. Like and subscribe.